Welcome to the Ho Ho Show.
Rated the #1 most listened to podcast on Pluto. So join us now as we discuss news, politics, current events, and so much more. So clear the airwaves and strap in as we
defend the Constitution because freedom matters.
Broadcasting live from the Kata Studio. Welcome to the Ho Ho Show. As always, I'm your host, Ho Ho. How y'all's doing? I hope you're doing good. I really do. So, welcome to 2023. This is the first episode of the new year. Kind of excited about that. And you know, we're starting off this month right with a Friday the 13th even. That's just so awesome to me. I like Friday the 13th. I do. The good movie selections. What can I say? So, man, we've got some stuff to talk about. Boy, howdy do we ever. All right. Now, as I'm sure you all know by now, late Saturday, early Sunday, they finally, after 15 votes, 15 ballots, they finally got a new Speaker of the House in the House of Representatives. Finally, we got it done. And I got to be honest with you, at the onset of this, just because there was so much being said, so much, different commentary back and forth, I was kind of confused on what the heck was going on. I really was. You had mainstream media saying one thing. You had, conservative media that was saying something else, and just all kinds of different things in between. Of course, the liberals had their own point of view. Conservatives had their own point of view. And it seemed like on the conservative side, on the Republican side, there wasn't a lot of continuity. I mean, they weren't agreeing on things. They really weren't agreeing on a lot. And hello, Machine over there in YouTube land. He says, it's poo-poo. And so, I was kind of confused at first, and it's like, why is there so much argument going on this process? Why? I was confuzzled, okay? And for those of you that don't know, I am a truck driver. I spend a lot of time listening to... And hello, Dave, over there in YouTube land. He goes, I'm here, but I'm also on Facebook. Awesome. Good to see you, sir. Glad you was able to catch it. I was going to be doing a show yesterday. I wasn't able to. I didn't get back to town until like almost 7 o'clock. That's just not enough time to do show prep. It's just not. I thought about pushing it back an hour, but I'm like, I don't really want to do that either. I'll just do it on Sunday. But, so here we are. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back into this. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a truck driver. I spend a lot of my time listening to, Sirius XM, the Patriot Channel 125, and, their daily lineup of live shows. And each one of these hosts has a 3-hour show. Starts off with Alex Marlowe of Breitbart News Daily, David Webb of the David Webb Show, Andrew Wilkow of the Wilkow Majority, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, and it ends the day up with Stacey Washington on Stacey on the Right. And, you had, it was almost split 50. I don't spend a lot of time listening to Sean Hannity. He is way too moderate for my liking. And, gives way too much of a voice for people on the left and for moderates and for rhinos, and doesn't challenge them enough for my liking. So I'm not a big Sean Hannity fan. I'm not saying that there's not a market for him. Obviously he's doing something right. He's very successful in what he does, but I don't spend a lot of time listening to him. And it really seemed like things were kind of split on that channel. A lot of people saying a lot of different things. And I'm like, I took some time and really, consumed what was being said, read some articles, did some research, and I'm like, okay, well, this isn't a bad thing. You had some of these people that were focused on, the people that were not voting for McCarthy, that were doing it for the wrong reasons, and I believe Gatz was actually one of them. You know, he is no conservative. He is no friend of the Republican Party. You know, he is somebody whom was holding up the what's that called? The Convention of States in the state that he had come from, and it's like he is no friend of the conservative movement. He is no friend of Republicans. He is, you know, no friend. You know, and it seemed like those that were so against what was going on seemed to focus their entire time on the people that weren't friends of the conservative movement instead of focusing on the people whom were friends of the conservative movement. You know, and it's like, why? You know, why are you going to use that as your, you know, starting off point, your your baseline for whether what they're doing is good or bad? And I mean, here's the thing, okay? Here's part of what my outlook is on a lot of this. You know, think about it. What have we got out of Republican speakers of the House in recent history? Okay, let's go back to, you know, just the whenever Trump became president, you know, we had the House, the Senate, and we had the presidency. We had everything. Dave put in here, he goes, I am so surprised to hear you saying that about Sean Hannity. I have no concrete evidence, but I disagree with you. I think he's pretty conservative. He's conservative enough for me, but I am sure you have good reasons for what you are saying. I like Mark Levin as well. He is so smart. And you know what? I absolutely agree with you. And I mean, granted, you know, Sean Hannity is a Republican, no doubt about it. Okay. But like I said, I mean, it seems like when he's doing interviews and some of his point of views, for me, is kind of moderate, you know, and there's enough, but also, I mean, he is on Fox News. I mean, there's a lot of moderate out there, moderate Republicans. And, you know, for me being I am a conservative through and through with a constitutional conservative with libertarian leanings, you know, and there's just some of his stances that just rub me the wrong way because I am a constitutional conservative. I see nothing wrong with how the Constitution was written. In fact, I am extremely ticked off at the fact that they made it, you know, in one of the amendments to the Constitution, that they changed how the Senate was put into office, because it was originally written that they are supposed to be appointed by the state that they represent, because let's remember, the Senate is supposed to be the state's representative in the federal government. It's no longer like that, because now they are elected by a majority vote in the state. They're elected by popular vote. They're no longer appointed by the state. So now the state itself has no representation in the federal government, which to me is wrong, especially whenever you take into consideration that federally speaking, we are a nation of nations, not a nation of people. You know, but I mean, that's just my take on Sean Hannity. I'm not saying that, you know, it's not a good show to watch. I'm not saying that it's not a good source of information, and I'm not saying anything like that. It's just, for me, he's too moderate. There's other people out there that do a really good job that I tend to agree with a lot more. And Sean Hannity, you know, or I'm sorry, not Sean Hannity, but Mark Levin, you know, on to him, I completely agree with you. I like listening to that man. How he starts each and every one of his shows with the national anthem is amazing. And, you know, and normally on most issues, I agree with him right down the board, you know, no issues whatsoever. But yeah, we won't get into that. Dave also puts in there the things that I'm probably moderate. I'm not exactly sure. I have libertarian tendencies as well. I'm not well versed in the Constitution. Maybe that's my problem. I just go with my gut, common sense, and my pragmatism. And I totally get that. You know, like I said, I don't condemn Sean Hannity for his views. There's obviously a place for it. It's just, for me, I am way more right leaning, way more conservative than him, and my flavor goes a different direction. That's just me. The machine says, "Shut up, you big dope," on Mark Levin. But I like Mark Levin, but like with this, I didn't agree with him, with his outlook on what was going on with the speaker process. I did not agree with Mark at all, because he was focusing way too much on the people that were voting against McCarthy, or at least against the process, instead of looking at the bigger picture and some of the other people that were involved in this, And here's the thing, okay? You look at the recent years, the recent history, what Republicans have had to put up with, okay? These Republicans that were elected into office with a job to do, and I'm specifically talking about, the first 2 years of the Trump presidency. What got accomplished? Not a freaking single thing. Nothing really got accomplished. They were supposed to build the wall, fund the wall. They had control. They had the House. They had the Senate. They had the presidency. The president flat said, if you write a law, if you put the budget out there for it, I'll sign this stinking thing. It's not even a question. This is what I am very much willing to do. And did we get it? No. Did they, even though they had this nice, we're going to make this big show pledge of us, repealing and replacing Obamacare, did they actually accomplish it? No, they didn't do anything. They didn't repeal and replace. They didn't dismantle the whole thing. They didn't do jack diddly squat. And of which case, why? You say you're going to do something and you don't. Why do you think that we have no faith in the Republican Party, in conservatism, in any of that? Why do you think? That's because the Republican Party, the speakership, good grief, don't even get me started on Mitch McConnell. Holy crap. The bottom line is we didn't have as big of a majority in the House because of people like McConnell, whom would not support conservatives in their elections. We didn't get a majority in the Senate because Mitch McConnell would much rather lead than govern, because he wanted electable, good quality candidates. And to him, good quality candidates are Republicans that will tote the party line, that are establishment Republicans. Republicans that will do whatever it is that he wants, sit down, shut up, don't make waves, do what he says, and that's all there is to it. McConnell is no friend of conservatism. He's no friend of the Republican Party. Why do you think that he that whole, circle jerk that he had with Biden? Yeah, I don't want to get into it. He ticks me off more than anything else. But if you're going to change something, if there's something that you don't like in politics, if there's something you don't like in the speakership, what's another one of the big problems of conservatism that conservatives have? And that is the, it's my turn outlook. What was one of McCarthy's first thing that came out of his mouth? Dave, can you put in here? He goes, McConnell has got to go. Terrible. He's the leader of the swamp. And you are so right. I totally agree with you on that. No. The man has got to go. He's got to be removed from office. He's got to be removed from power. And the only way to do that is to get people in the Senate that truly are conservatives and aren't just going to vote, or aren't just going to give a vote, get along to go along to get along, however they word that. That's what we got to do. We got to get rid of the swamp people. We got to get rid of the people whom are We got to get rid of it. We got to make changes, man. It's the only way we're going to save this country. We got to make changes. So back to the it's my turn mentality. How did that work for Mitt Romney? He is the chosen one. He is the anointed one by the establishment party. It is his turn. He's the best candidate. And they made that decision before the primaries was even done against Obama. How well did that work out? It didn't. Not enough Republicans showed up for the election to make a difference. Didn't work out. How did that work out for McCain? Didn't work out. Republicans didn't show up to vote because it's my turn whenever you have conservatives whom you are counting on their vote to get somebody elected whenever you make us disenfranchised as much as you do, when you claim that you are going to support what conservatives want, limited government, balanced budget, let's stop the overspending, let's get back to the fundamentals of the Republican Party, let's do something, and you get in the office and then you don't do it, but yet you still expect us to vote for you come election time? How can you be surprised about that? So no, not enough. No, conservatives didn't show up for him. No, of course, it didn't work out for him. He didn't get elected. You think of our, excuse me, I got to take a drink. But you think of our past speakers that we've had, and things really hasn't worked out all that great. Speakers that just didn't follow through with their promises, what they said that they would do. And there wasn't enough conservatives to hold their feet to the fire and force change. Now let's fast forward to, let's fast forward to this year. We won. Slim majority. We won. And in a matter of speaking, because of this, I'm actually kind of glad that we didn't have any more of a majority in the House of Representatives, because the Freedom Caucus, the most conservatives in the House of Representatives, their vote actually mattered. There's 40 some odd members of the Freedom Caucus, the most conservatives in there. And let's face it, McCarthy is not a conservative. Most of these people in the Freedom Caucus at least have a B rating in their conservative score, as in how conservative, are their votes, things that they represent, things that they bring to the floor, all these other kind of things. And McCarthy only has like a 54, percent on the scale of being a conservative, meaning that he's it's a failing score. He's no conservative. I mean, he's almost split right down the middle. And so you had members of the Freedom Caucus. I mean, granted, not every one of them people that were not voting for McCarthy, had good intentions, like Gatz. I mentioned him earlier in the show. They were doing this more for their own political gain, playing their own head games, whatever the case may be, trying to give them a better position, a better appointment, a better seat, a better chair, what have you. Not all of these people were doing this for the best of intentions. They were, trying to capitalize. But you still had some of these people Dave asks, he goes, do you think that that is a foreshadow of bad things to come if he is not as conservative as we'd like? Is he going to be another Boehner? And you know what? That is a very good question. I'm not quite there yet, but I am going to talk about that. I am going to talk about that. I'm not quite there yet. But absolutely, though, you know, Boehner, we absolutely do not want another Boehner. We don't want another Paul Ryan. These people claimed that they were going to do this, but when push came to shove, they decided they wasn't going to do it. Changing the House rules, changing this, that, and the other, and that's why you had a fight for this from day one. Because you had people that would not vote for McCain. I mean, granted, you know, the people that were not voting for McCarthy, I'm sorry, I said McCain. The people that were not voting for McCarthy, granted, they didn't have a better option to put forth. They didn't have that. It's not like they were going to have their own nominee that people were going to rally behind and that person had a chance of becoming the speaker. It wasn't going to happen, and everybody knew it. Okay? Very few people outside of McCarthy actually had the chance of truly winning the speakership and getting the votes in order to do it. You know, Jim Jordan being one of them, he outright refuses. He does not want to do it. And even he may have had a problem becoming Speaker of the House if he was willing to do it. It wasn't going to happen. You know, there wasn't any other candidate, nobody that was going to even come close. The only chance that they had was McCarthy. And hello, Linda, over there in Spreaker. Good to see you. She says, hello from me, Vector, and the other little dudes. Very, very awesome. Good to see you over there. So McCarthy was the guy. He was going to get the nomination. He was going to get the vote because, you know, the flip side is it was going to go to a Democrat. Okay? Because if this thing happened, which, okay, now this was not the first time that this many votes, I mean, there's like 100 and some odd votes, like over 100 years ago that, you know, that it took for the speakership to get chosen, you know, but that's a good thing though. Okay. That's how this sucker is supposed to play out. I mean, it really is. I mean, think about it. You know, what do you have in the Democrat Party? You have one voice. Nancy Pelosi made it very, very clear that you will do what she says. Otherwise, there will be repercussions and you're not going to like it. She set a precedence. She set a standard. She rules with a heavy hand. That's all there is to it. But it's one voice. And that one voice is hers. And she is the one who is in control of most everything. The machine puts in here, new rules. If you're denied 3 times, move down the bench. Next candidate, please. You know, in a matter of speaking, I understand what you're saying. In a matter of speaking, I agree with you, but at the same time, I really, really don't. And I'll get into that a little bit more later, but I can't say as if I agree with you at all. I really don't. You know, with that whole, if you're denied 3 times, move down the bench. Next candidate, please. I understand what you're saying, but I can't say as if I agree. But let's get back to this whole vote. Dave, Linda, how are you? Good to see you here. Happy New Year. Awesome, awesome. So here's what we got, though. Okay, here's what we ended up having. Now, I think we all agree that we don't want a Mitch McConnell. We don't want a Boehner. We don't want another Paul Ryan. We do not want this type of speakership. So how do we ensure that we don't have that? Then conservatives have to stand together, unified, and they got to fight for what they want. And that is exactly what this amounted to. This amounted to a fight. there was a lot of things that in order to get the speakership that McCarthy had to agree with, that, you know, it was only through the fight that we were able to get the concessions that we were needing. You know, concessions to basically hold McCarthy's feet to the fire to say, this is what our agenda is. And you will put conservatives in chairs in the places that it matters so we can ensure that conservatism is followed. Not the Rhino Republican, not the Do Nothing Party, not the party that is going to side with the Democrats every single chance that they get. Nope, we're having a Republican agenda, not a Rhino agenda, not an establishment agenda. And that's what they were able to do in this fight, was get those kinds of concessions to actually give us a fighting chance. I mean, what happened? Not that long ago, a big, huge omnibus bill, $1.4 trillion spending. You got to pass it in order to find out what's in it. All kinds of concessions, all kinds of pork in there for, you know, this, that, and the other. They did that, even though, you know, what they should have done was do a continuing resolution so that this way the incoming House was able to limit the spending of the federal government. They took all the power away from the incoming House of Representatives, Republican controlled. Mitch McConnell agreed to that. He helped with this. Are you kidding me? And we're supposed to be happy about this. No. That's a Rhino Republican. That's what you have with conservatives that we represent, or that we elect to represent us, don't represent us. And it was a fight to get the concessions that we were looking to get. You know, it took a fight. You know, I got to admit, I think it's kind of ridiculous to have a vote of no confidence with only one representative supporting that. I don't see what the problem was in having 5, like what, you know, McCarthy had originally agreed to. You know, I thought that was a bit childish to back that down to just 1. You know, and granted, I think some of what they were fighting over was just, you know, excuses to delay the process, even by the people who seem to have the best intentions in there. You know, because, you know, fighting over vote of no confidence over one person that can stand up and go, nope, vote of no confidence, you're done. And then, like, that's really, that just, no, that was an overreach. I thought that was kind of ridiculous. I thought that was pretty stinking stupid. What's the problem with having 5? You know, but whatever. Anyway, it was a fight. It was putting a conservative agenda, holding them accountable, holding McCarthy accountable. And the only way that we were going to do that I'm not disagreeing. It's not dragging the process out. But again, I mean, if you're, you know, and here's the thing, going to this 15 times, you know, with what you had said earlier. Okay. Okay. So you go through 3 different times, you don't get the concessions, and then you're starting from step 1 again with somebody else. Now you've got to go through the concession progress again. You've got to fight for what you want again. You know, you're starting the fight from round 1 every single time, and you don't get anywhere. I mean, eventually, you know, maybe you might get somebody that you want to vote for, But then you got to hope that enough people would agree with you and get that person elected into office, like an actual conservative getting nominated. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, you know, with just going through that process like that, you're not going to get everybody agreeing at the same time. You're going to run out of options. You're going to run out of options entirely. And then what? You know, you go through all... You know, you go through every single option in the party that you have, and then, well, who's the next pick? Is it going to be a conservative, or is it going to be, you know, a Republican, or is it going to be a Democrat? I mean, once you've gone through every single, you know, once you've gone through every single Republican, well, then now you got to vote on a Democrat. You know, and there's enough rhinos in there. No, the machine goes 15 times to confirm a person. That's dragging the process out 15 times. 50. You don't think that's excessive? I got to admit, no, I don't think it's excessive. You know, if that's what it takes to ensure that we're not going to have a rhino Republican in charge with a rhino Republican agenda, then yes, I am totally happy with 15 votes. I am totally happy with 30 votes. I'm totally happy with 100 votes. I don't care. Over 100 years ago, I think it was 116, over a century ago. I think that's what they said, like 116 votes it took for them to finally get somebody as the speaker. So, I mean, no, I don't. If that's what it takes to ensure that you're holding your speaker's foot to the fire, no, I don't. I can't. No, that's not excessive. It's just not. That's the process. And I honestly have no problem with the process whatsoever. And by the way, call-ins are welcome. I do very much. I very much, call-ins are welcome. I'm sure Brandon might be even biting at the bit right now. But call in, if you're wanting to call in, is 217-965-6133. Just follow the prompt on in. I believe it's option number 1. It does work. I did update that before the show. So yes, call in number 217-965-6133. Linda put in here, she goes, my spidey senses say that things are going to get even crazier until 2025. You are probably right on that, very much so. Dave asks, Brandon asks, he goes, what do you think McCarthy is? Well, I don't think he's conservative. He seems to be, or at least his voting record somewhat is better than Paul Ryan. But again, the concessions that those that were holding out their vote got set in stone the conservative agenda, holding McCarthy's feet to the fire. That's what it did. A vote of no confidence with only one representative voting on that. Granted, I think that's a bit excessive. Just a threshold of 1 seems kind of ridiculous to me, especially considering that it only takes a simple majority of a nomination in order to get somebody over the threshold and become speaker. But it means that, because some of the concessions were, chair seats in the House Oversight Committee or, different places like that. Everybody knows that you send a bill to committee to die if it's something that you don't want, to go through, something like that, and it's these House Means Committee, these House Rules Committee, these different chair positions that are very important to the process. And that's one of the things that these conservatives that were holding out, that they were fighting for with their concessions, that's one of the things that they were demanding, is that, look, we are going to be part of this process. We are going to have this many seats in here. This is what we demand in order for you to get our vote. We are going to be part of the process, because otherwise, what would you have had? You know, you would have made some rules, but you wouldn't have any conservatives in the chair, as in giving him an option of whom he's going to place in there. Now this is a rock solid. He's got to do this. You are going to ensure that you have a seat at the table whenever it comes to negotiating on these rules, on these bills, on this, that, and the other. That's what some of these concessions were in there for. You know, again, it was to give conservatives a fighting chance, to ensure that we were going to have a say in what was going on. If we didn't get these concessions, he may not have given some of these seats to conservatives, but at least at this point, he doesn't have a choice, considering he had to give up these concessions. He had to give up his control to conservatives in order to get their vote. Dave puts in here, he goes, how's this for perspective? I think it's great that the Republican Party is alive and well, fighting for what they believe in. Absolutely, I agree with you. Although it would be nice if they had a plan leading up to this moment and McCarthy or Jim Jordan went in on the first vote. Let me see if I got you on this, Dave. That if they had a plan leading up to this on the first vote, either McCarthy or Jim Jordan. Well, like if they had like all of the, all the details ironed out, before the first vote, I mean, yeah, it would have been nice, it really would have, but, again, like what Brandon points out, McCarthy is no friend of the conservative party. And the last thing that any person whom is seeking power wants to do is give up power. Remember how, remember how Nancy Pelosi ruled. Iron fist. Okay. She did not give up any power. She ruled as Speaker of the House. It was her, it was her say so, her final word, whatever she went, it was her way or the highway, period. If you went against her, you're going to suffer the consequences. You're going to lose seats. You're going to lose your gavel. You're going to lose everything. And that's one of the things that this fight was about. You need my vote in order to cross the threshold to become Speaker. You need these other conservative votes in order to cross the threshold and become Speaker. You want our help? Then you're going to concede your power to conservatives. You're going to make sure that you can't just be another rhino Republican. That's what this whole fight was about, to ensure that even though Kevin McCarthy, and I have no illusions on this, Kevin McCarthy may not necessarily be a rhino Republican, but he's definitely no friend of the conservative party. This ensures that he has to do what we say. He can't just remove people from from chair seats, from the bench, remove their gavel. He can't just do that off of fiat in order to, in order to punish somebody who didn't want to just vote for him in round one voting. Again, this whole entire fight was about reining in the power of the Speaker of the House. I think that's something that any conservative would want to do. Rein in the power so we don't have another Nancy Pelosi, so we don't have another Paul Ryan, that we don't have another Boehner. I think that's what we all want. And that's what this fight, that's what these concessions, that's what this did. Ensure that it wasn't going to happen. Linda put in there, honestly, trying to recognize life as I knew it is becoming more difficult by the day. Oh, yeah, I get you on that one, talking about hopefully that next, things get better. Dave Kenyon also puts in here, I only saw that because time is precious. We can't have two more reckless years of Biden. Absolutely. He needs to be stopped and then corrected. I like the undecideds come back to this party. Undecideds come back to the party and have a confidence to vote Republican. Absolutely. Say that, not saw that. Okay, cool. And yeah, I completely agree with you, the undecideds, the people whom, don't vote Republican because they feel like they have been disenfranchised because they are conservatives that are not represented in the Republican Party. I would like to see that too. I really would like to see that. So what can we expect now that the fight is over? Okay. Now that the fight's over, what can we expect to see in the upcoming, 2 more years? The last 2 years of the first term of the Biden presidency. What can we expect to see? Actually, let's start off let's manage our expectations. Let's start there. Maybe that's a good place to start. Let's manage expectations. What are we not going to see? A border wall. Yeah, we're not going to see a border wall. Why? Because the only thing that you're going to have, assuming that you get a majority of the representatives to vote on it in the House of Representatives, assuming all that, you still have to get it to the Senate, and you got to get it, and get it to pass in the Senate, and you got to get Biden to vote on it, and none of those two things are going to happen. So we're not going to see you're not going to see a border wall, okay? You're not going to see that. It's not going to happen. There's a lot of other things that that's not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. Why? Because we only control 1/2 of one branch of government. So there's a lot of power that we don't have, but what we can do is throw a wrench into anything that the Democrats want to accomplish over the next 2 years. That really is what we can do. Linda puts in here, she goes, where the heck are we supposed to put all of these people? They ain't setting up camp on my acreage. And I'm assuming you're talking about all these illegals that are coming over, 200,000 people every single month. And those are just the ones that we know about. You're right. This is absolutely ridiculous. We need to shut this border down. We really do. We got to. I mean, this is an invasion. It really is. All right. It's definitely an invasion. Dave Kenyon puts in here, he goes, are we going to see the stoppage of funding to the Ukraine, or did that moment pass? I don't know. Well, see, that's the thing. That's possible. He also puts in here, are we going to see the stoppage of the 87,000 IRS agents? We can't stop the IRS agents, but what we can do, because all bills for revenue must originate in the House of Representatives. And since the House of Representatives is controlled by the Republican Party, since we had some of these concessions, which are amazing. And hello, Brian, over there in YouTube land. He says, what doing, ho-ho? Not much, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. But what we can do with a Republican-controlled House of Representatives, we can stop the funding. Basically, taking away the power that they have, or at least rendering it useless. You know, if you can't pay their salaries, if you can't hire them, all that other kind of good stuff. Well, you know, that's what we're looking at, though. You know, I thought a huge amount in the budget was for Ukraine, more aggressive weapons, and yes, there was a lot of spending on that. But let's remember, though, you know, with that omnibus bill, that was done, you know, under the last house. That wasn't this one. They already got that passed through, which I think is a farce, because if I'm remembering correctly, that actually originated in the Senate, which goes against the Constitution, because all bills for revenue was supposed to originate in the House of Representatives, and in which case I don't believe that one did. So I mean, right there you have a constitutional fight, a battle that you should have in the Supreme Court, and of which case, is that going to happen? Probably not. I mean, you're probably not going to see that. Let's just be honest. You know, we're not going to see that. But now, since we've kind of touched base on a few of these, what can we expect to see over the next 2 years? You know, and this is all assuming that McCarthy's feet gets held to the fire. Because I got to be honest with you, you know, there are certain things that, you know, I don't have a lot of faith in. There are a lot of what ifs. There are a lot of, you know, only ifs and, you know, what have you. I don't have a whole heck of a lot of faith in it. Why? Because as a constitutional conservative with libertarian leanings, that even though these representatives, whether it be, you know, House of Representatives, whether it be senators, whether it be any member of the executive branch, the president, whether it be, you know, any one of the, you know, Supreme Court justices, if any of them, they take an oath. And we've seen far too many times, 5 minutes after they take the oath of office, they violate the stinking thing and do something that goes against the oath of office. I don't have a whole heck of a lot of faith in any of these guys actually holding true to the Constitution, what they're supposed to be doing. You know, I don't have a lot of faith in that. I just don't, you know, and assuming, and I know, I understand there's a lot of ifs on this one, but you know, what we can expect to see is a reining in and, you know, just completely throwing in a monkey wrench. Okay. Dave Patiner goes, I wonder if he's going to stick top his commitments to America. Has he edited it? Is everyone on board with it? From what it looks like, Dave, it is. You know, again, these concessions were basically setting in stone this commitment to America that he had stated even before. Okay. A lot of these concessions, this fight, what it did was basically etch it in stone, make it, you know, holding his feet to the fire. It's not just his word. This is something that, you know, that they have the ability to hold his feet to the fire and make changes if he doesn't do this. It doesn't look like they've edited it. And, you know, and this is actually kind of the cool thing that I did end up seeing happening, even though there was a lot of, you know, and this ought to tell you where the American people are. This ought to tell you very much of where the Republican Party is, as in the people, you know, not the party, not the establishment, you know, not the people in Washington, but the people like you, like me in the Republican Party. This ought to tell you where we all are. Because even though you had a huge fight over what was going on, a lot of concessions that had to be made that McCarthy had to agree to with conservatives, this wasn't moderates that he had to appease. This was conservatives that he had to appease. And what didn't you have happening? Moderates over these concessions rescinding their support for McCarthy. That's what you didn't see. And that is very, very telling, because they knew that their base of where they came from, this is what they want, and they didn't dare rescind based off of these concessions that McCarthy had to make. Isn't that very, very telling? You know, it's like having person A going, build a wall. They're saying, yes, you will build a wall, or else, you know, if you want my vote, if you want the speakership, you are going to build a wall. You're going to, you know, put this down in stone. This is not questionable. This is how it's going to happen. And if you don't do it, you can be removed, and we'll bring somebody else in who will do it. And somebody else going, no, I don't like that. We didn't have any of that happening. Why? Because even the moderates, even if they were completely against a border wall, knew that their political career means they couldn't rescind their support just because of that. And that ought to tell you where a lot of these people are. Dave puts in here, he goes, when I click on his link via Google Chrome, this is what I see. 404 file of directory not found. The resource you are looking for might have been removed, had its name changed, or is temporarily unavailable. Here's the link, and here's what he put. And, you know, here's the thing, though, too. I know what you're talking about with his commitment to America and whatnot. I have seen that in the past. What we are having going on right now, and this might be why that link is broken, is with .gov, a lot of things are being rebuilt. Okay. You know, with changing of the guard, so to speak, with changing of the speakership, with changing of offices, with all this kind of stuff, you know, they still are getting built their .gov websites and their .gov information, even though, you know, McCarthy, yes, was a senator before and has been for some years. You know, this is the first time he's had and been Speaker of the House. His position has changed. His website is being overhauled. So a lot of this kind of stuff isn't quite done yet. So finding some of that information may be a little hard to do, at least for now. I'm going to try to click this and hopefully nothing breaks. Let me go here. Okay, cool. Oh, this actually brings up for Steve Scalise, Republican leader .gov. Majority leader .gov. Yeah, Steve Scalise. Yeah, like I said, you know, they're working on this, you know, the majority leader. Yeah, so I mean they're changing things around. I got to be honest with you, this is the first time I've really paid this much attention to, you know, the speakership. You know, I don't know how long it usually takes for them to get all of these things, you know, sorted out and changed over, and these .gov, you know, domains and subdomains to be switched over. I really have no clue. Dave said, he goes, for some reason it's working here on your show. Yeah. Okay. I'll be patient. Thanks for that. Yeah, not a problem. You know, I don't know how much time it usually takes for these things to get ironed out, but you know, yes, it's going to take a little bit of time. You know, they're working on it. Very, very good. So yeah, you know, overall, you know, the biggest thing that we can expect, you know, as conservatives, as Republicans, whatever, we are not going to push through a Republican agenda. That just isn't going to happen. That's impossible. You know, only having one half of one branch, you know, you got to get that through, you know, the Senate. You got to get that over on his desk, and Biden's got to sign it. And Biden ain't going to sign that kind of stuff. He's not going to. You know, he's not going to. But considering the House of Representatives has the power of the purse. If they want something funded, they have to come through the House of Representatives. Period. End of story. End of discussion. If Biden wants his agenda funded, he's got to come through the Republican Party. And this is why I'm so ticked off about this omnibus bill that they passed in the lame duck session of Congress. Because, like I said, that, 1 year. I mean, if they would have done what they should have done, a continuing resolution to take us into, mid-January or February, then that's what they should have done. This way all they did was allow the Biden agenda, all the pork spending, all of that kind of crap to go for another year, taking all of our power, all of the incoming House of Representatives power away from us for half of the 2-year term that they got elected for. That's a bunch of Bravo Sierra, period. So what can we expect to see whenever this comes across again? Do you really think that granted, okay. It seems as though there's way too many people in this country that has a memory bigger than a dust mite. If you know just how big a dust mite is, it's pretty stinking ridiculous. That's very, very small. So, by the time next year rolls around, the likelihood of these people remembering are slim to none. But I can hope that when next year rolls around and we got to do this again, that they not only remember what they did with this big, huge $1.4 trillion omnibus spending bill, that they are still holding true to the rules that has been put in place, during this fight for McCarthy becoming speaker. No omnibus spending bills. 72 hours to read a bill before you vote on it. Amendments that are added to a bill that are directly pertaining to the bill, eliminating a lot of pork that can be thrown in just to throw it in. I mean, that means that, the Protect the Vet bill is actually going to be about protecting vets and not about doing this whenever they're only going to spend 2% on helping a veteran out. That's what you see out of Washington. Think about this. The COVID relief bill, how much of the spending actually went to the people to relieve, for relief packages to the people for the COVID pandemic? How much? 10%. That's how much. That means 90% of what was in the COVID relief bill was pork spending that didn't have nothing to do with what it was supposed to be about. These concessions, this fight that we just had, ensures that kind of crap doesn't happen. They can't do that anymore. You want pork spending? Write another stinking bill. This is the COVID relief bill. This bill is going to be about COVID relief. You're not going to put 90% of the spending about something else that ain't got jack diddly squat to do about COVID relief, about pork spending, about helping your friends and screw the American people and making us pay for it. You're not going to do that anymore. That's what these concession fights were about, ensuring that doesn't happen anymore. Dave puts in and goes, same here. I haven't paid that much attention this deep into the process myself. I'm hoping for a greater, bigger picture. Try saying that fast 3 times. I just know that we need a clear speaking, strong acting, and action taking leader. Pelosi is finally out It's time to get to work. And you know what? I could not agree more. You know, I'm hopeful for what's going on. You know, I'm hopeful, you know, with this fight that we had, with actually having a conservative agenda, the ability to hold the speaker's feet to the fire, force him to actually carry out on a conservative agenda. It makes me hopeful for what's coming. You know, as long as now that the fight is over, that these people don't think that the eyes of America are no longer on them and it doesn't go back to business as usual, as long as that doesn't happen, I'm hopeful. But I've been let down and disappointed more times than I would care to admit by the Republican Party, by Rhino Republicans that just operate as business as usual, like McConnell, like Ryan, McCain, Romney, Lindsey Graham, so many other ones. People who claim to be one thing and demonstrate through their actions that they are something different. I really hope that this time the Constitution wins. I really do. With these concessions, we have a chance. Do I think it'll pay off? I don't know. Time will tell. You know, time will tell. All I can say is I hope so. Do I actually have faith that it will? No, I don't. Because I've been let down far too many times. I ain't got that kind of faith. I wish I could say that I did. I don't. I mean, really, how can you have faith in government whenever they let you down time and time again? Whenever you got actors in there like Mitch McConnell that does the kind of crap that he's done. You know, I mean, it's, you know, actors in there like Lindsey Graham that, you know how they are. They're no friends of conservatism. They may talk the talk, but whenever it comes to going to Washington and walking the walk, they have been found wanted. And it doesn't work out for conservatives. It doesn't work out for the Republican Party, but it does benefit the Democrat Party a lot. Now, I do have some articles in here that I did throw together. I mean, there's not a lot in here. There's only 13 articles that I have in here talking about Kevin McCarthy and Dan Kershaw. Representative Dan Crenshaw over some of the stuff that they were saying and talking about and, you know, different things of that nature. So if you guys want to get a little bit of, you know, perspective on some of the stuff that went on and happened, you can head on over to thehohoshow.com. Just click on that newsfeed tab at the upper right portion of the page, and you'll see my magazine on Flipboard, and just check that out. All the articles that I used over there on the show can be had right there. I invite you to check it out, to take a look at it, to, you know, educate yourself, to, you know, look into it. There you go. Crenshaw. Yeah. He was a disappointment. He was very much of a disappointment, you know, calling the people that were, you know, holding out, you know, terrorists. Okay. Just because you don't like how the process is going, definitely not not a huge fan. Dave puts in here, he goes, same here, faith. Darn, I don't have much either. Yeah. What a shame. So sad for this country and for the people of this country. Yeah, you're right. You know, I don't, you know, do I hope? I do. Do I have a lot of faith that it'll actually happen? Not really. And Dave puts in here, he goes, I was amazed that he said that. And you're right. You know, I was amazed too, you know, but I mean, like, I can't, in a matter of speaking, I was amazed. Yes, I was, but at the same time, not really, because, you know, in different things like that, he has said some things that really make me question just how conservative he really is. he has said some things over the, the past of the last, 4 to 6 years, whatever, that, he's kind of starting to get a little bit more moderate for my, a little bit more friendly with the Democrat agenda than my liking, a little bit more friendly to, the establishment Republican agenda, Rhino Republican agenda. I mean, here's the thing, guys. This is kind of what it amounts to. I had a family member of mine that absolutely would not, under any circumstance, vote for a incumbent Republican. And his thought process on this was, eventually, the fruit will spoil. They're going to go bad. They're going to play the game of Washington, because if they were good going in time, they're going to go bad. He would not vote for an incumbent. He wouldn't do it. And Representative Dan Crenshaw is definitely, he's starting to show that and hold true to that, that eventually it's really, really hard for somebody to go to Washington when you are constantly badgered and hit and beat over the head with, establishment and everything else with it's hard to go to Washington and not be overcome and taken by Washington. It's really, really, really hard to do that. And I mean, unfortunately, in time, you just have members, like Crenshaw that do that. Brian puts in here, he goes, yeah, we found that out with a Rodney Davis. Yeah. I don't know if you did the censoring on that, but it censored that. I mean, I know that this sucker will do that kind of stuff. I kind of set it up to do that. But yeah. Anyway, we found that out with Rodney Davis, and yeah, we definitely did. Going in there good, best of intentions, spent too much time in Washington, D.C., and he became just like another Washington, D.C. individual. I mean, let's face it, okay? All these different members, every one of them live in D.C., work in D.C., their kids go to the same schools. They go to the same country clubs. They eat at the same restaurants. They're talking to each other constantly. Not just one Republican to another Republican, but Republican to Democrat, Democrat to Republican. That their lives are intertwined. And do you think for 1 second that, whenever they are in public, whenever they meet up, whenever they are around each other, that they're not having conversations? Do you really think that they're not one person to another trying to advance their own agenda in one way, shape, or form, trying to indoctrinate somebody to just just go along to get along, play the game? That's how it's done. That's how they do it. I mean, that's what happens in D.C. without fail. Brian goes in to put in here, he goes, says that he was a fiscal conservative and that proved to be wrong. Yeah. Fiscal conservative. Okay. Maybe with his own money, he's a fiscal conservative. And most people are conservatives whenever it comes to, tax day. They want to keep the majority of their own money. But in government, when you had people say that, look, it doesn't matter what the dollar amount is, it doesn't matter. We can just print more money. The deficit is an irrelevant number that doesn't mean anything. Okay. Isn't it scary that some of their point of view is exactly like that? Why? Because they don't. Yeah. Linda Irwin puts in there, he goes, hive mind. Absolutely hive mind. That's what it amounts to. That is exactly what it amounts to. It's a hive mentality. I mean, think about it. This whole thing, okay, it's not like a salad bowl. It really isn't. Okay, salad bowls are one thing. Salad bowls are amazing. You know, the tomato keeps the flavor of the tomato. The lettuce keeps the flavor of the lettuce. You know, keeps the flavor. What you have in Washington is more of a melting pot because, you know, they don't want you to have an individual thought. They want you to have that hive mind mentality. They want you to be indoctrinated. They want you to go along to get along. That's what they want you to do. They're not going to allow you to have an individual thought. They're not going to allow that. So, I mean, yeah, when they are in public, they are working on not respecting your individual point of view, but they are trying to make you see how their way is right. Linda also put in here, and this is absolutely amazing, by the way, we are Borg. You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile. Yes, I was a fan of... you know, the Borg, you know, a fan of, oh, good grief, Star Trek, The Next Generation, I believe, was the one, you know, Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Awesome one. You know, we are the Borg, absolutely. Resistance is futile. You know, assimilated, just accept it. That's what they want you to do. Just accept it. Brian puts in here, he goes, in the movie Shooter, the senator said there is no Democrats or Republicans, just haves and have-nots. And what do we see in Washington? We see that playing out, Brian. I absolutely agree with that, or at least agree with that statement that that's the reality in Washington, D.C. Because if you don't go along to get along, then you don't get the assignments, you don't get the chair, you don't have any power, because unfortunately, that's just the way that it is. You know, that's why I am so happy with what happened, you know, in this vote with McCarthy. You know, I'm grateful that we didn't have any more of a majority than what we had. Because, I mean, think about it. If we had, you know, 15, 20 more of a lead, then we would have gotten no concessions. You know, I mean, yeah, they like to say that, you know, on day one, the vote was set in stone. Really? Because who determines the rules? Speaker of the House. Unless he is forced to give up concessions, give up some of this power, and you know, do something different. And of which case he wouldn't have had to do that, which would have meant that just like Nancy Pelosi, McCarthy would have had all the power. Would he have put some of these conservative people in positions of power to where they really had a chance to affect real change? No. I mean, maybe, but maybe not, if he wasn't forced into these concessions. He could have changed the rules. He could have put people on the House Rules Committee that wouldn't take away his power, wouldn't threaten his power, wouldn't hold his feet to the fire, allow him to make changes, allow him to screw over the American people, the Republican Party, true conservatives, the people who got them elected, gave them the majority in the first place. It would have allowed them to screw us over yet again without any consequences, any repercussions, business as usual in Washington, D.C. That's what would have happened. The only reason that his foot was held to the fire, the only reason why we got these concessions is because we didn't have that big of a majority in the House. And he was forced to give up control, to give up power in order to get the speakership. That is what we were able to win. That's what we were able to win. I'm happy. about what happened. I really am. Screw the people who said that this was bad, that this is negative, this was a laughingstock, this was a joke. The people who put down and criticized, screw them all. I don't even care. Because they don't understand what was at stake, what could have happened, what did happen. And like I said, I hope it works out. I really do. I so hope it works out. Do I have faith that it will? Nope. I've been let down too many times. But at least we have a chance, and we have a better chance today than what we had last week. We have a better chance to be an opposition party. We have a better chance of reining in this pork crap, this out of control spending, this out of control border. We have a better chance of actually getting back to where we're supposed to be than what we had last week. Bottom line, that's all there is to it. And Brian, I completely agree with it. He put in here that we just want them to stand up and fight for what is right. I couldn't agree more. That's exactly what we want. You know, you oath of office, man. You know, you said that oath of office whenever you got in there. That oath of office was to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Was to, do this without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. That's what you are supposed to do. Do that. What's so hard about that? But in their minds, the Constitution is what they say the Constitution is. I mean, dude, this is it's a small, little bitty document. It's not hard to understand. I'm going to be honest with you on this. Granted, there is a disconnect because they are using Old English, or at least an older English than what we use today. It's not common parlance. I understand that. But when this was written, this was common parlance. This was common speak. This was contemporary in the time. It was written simple. It was written basic. It was written to the point. It was written stupid for stupid people to understand it. It wasn't made that only intelligent people with a doctorate degree in linguistics could understand this wasn't the tax code, okay? It wasn't something that you had to have a team of lawyers and accountants in order to figure out what the heck is going on. No, it was written for stupid people to understand so they would know what their rights were so that this way government couldn't take them away. Now we have a bunch of people in office that says your freedoms are what we say that they are. That this isn't a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. This is a government of me. A leadership of one. That's what we have in Washington now. A bunch of people that think like that. And it's high time they get put in their place by people like you, by people like me, by true conservatives. It's about time that we take back the power that we have. People should never be afraid of their government. Government should be afraid of the people. This is the United States of America. America, fuck yeah. That's what this is. You're welcome, Brandon. This is America. We should not be afraid of the government. The government is supposed to be afraid of us. Why is the government trying to take away our weapons? Because they're about ready to do something that they know darn good and well that we would not tolerate. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? Pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Dave asks, he goes, I saw Congressman Byron Donalds being interviewed intensely by the press. He was very awesome, very clear and assertive. I like this guy. Any thoughts? Honestly, I don't know enough about Byron Donalds. I really don't. I did not see that interview. I haven't heard anything about it. I'll look into it. I'll let you know what I think about that next week. Everything should be fine with a regularly scheduled program, 7 p.m. next Saturday, the 14th, I believe. Yes, Saturday the 14th. So, yes, normally scheduled time next week. Assuming that no issues happen and there shouldn't. Let's hope. And thank you for that link, by the way. I do appreciate that. I will take a look at that later. And I'll let you know. And definitely talk about that on the next show because, hey, here's the thing, man. There are some websites, and I'll get that information put over on the website, thehohoshow.com. I'm not going to guarantee that's going to be in there today. And right now, I don't even know where I'm going to put it. Probably I'm going to put this over in not the news feed tab, but the forum tab. I'll put this in there, or I might do an article. But I don't know. I'll put this in the next newsletter and let y'all know about where I end up putting this. But there is some places, good tools that you can use that give a scorecard for how conservative a representative is in office. Okay. Let me look at what that is. I can't remember. The Heritage Foundation, heritageaction.com scorecard is one of the websites that I use. Again, that is, oh, you suck. heritageaction.com. And again, I'll put this information, on the website, thehohoshow.com. Somewhere I will send out a newsletter letting you know as to where this information can be found. And if you are not signed up for the newsletter, head on over to thehohoshow.com, scroll on down to the bottom of the homepage, and there is a spot in there to fill in that information. I don't spam you. You're not going to get all kinds of stuff. You're lucky to get 1 or 2 a month. There's not a lot of newsletters that I send out. Okay. And it's just to get you updated on some of the stuff that is happening with changes like this taking place. Thehohoshow.com, just put in your email. I do not need your name. If you want to give it, great. If not, that is fine too. Head on over to thehohoshow.com, scroll on down to the bottom of the news page and subscribe to the newsletter today. Absolutely. So yeah, there we go. But there's also other places, conservatives, something or another, whatever, heritageaction.com. There are all kinds of places that you can go to that look at every single vote that these representatives take. And if it is pro-Constitution or against Constitution, and gives them a score accordingly. That's where I get, some of the scores that I have stated, is from heritageaction.com, is from conservative something.com, conservative view, or I don't remember. Because I don't have it right here. I got it someplace else, and I'm not even sure where I got that one at. I'm going to have to find that one again. But yes, good things that you can do just to check just how somebody does. It could even give you a rundown of their actual votes, of their positions, this, that, and the other to help you out. So yeah, there are tools to be had that can help you out on that. So, and I do highly recommend doing that. All right. So Linda put in here, he goes, Crapo, Risch, and Fulcher score is 89% and above for Idaho. Well, 89%, that's awesome, actually. That is awesome. And what do you, what source do you use, Linda? I'm having a hard time talking there. That was a hard question to get out. What source do you use, Linda, on, for your scorecard for different Republicans? Is it Heritage? Is it some of the other ones out there? I'm kind of curious. I'm definitely curious because I'm always trying to expand my knowledge base and get more, stuff like that. I'm always trying to do that. So I'm always after, more places to get information. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is really all I have for you today. I very much thank you for participating, for, being part of the conversation. That is awesome. That is amazing. I appreciate it greatly. I really do. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Brian, Brandon, Trip. Amazing. Thank you. I do appreciate it very much. So that's all I got for you this week. Next week, who knows what we're going to be talking about. Hopefully we can continue the conversation. Hopefully we can get better information on what is going on in Washington, D.C. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a picture as to what we truly can expect in the next coming up. But I mean, just so you know though, guys, it's going to take it's going to take some time, okay? Because they've got to, now they've sworn everybody in, they got to, solidify some of the rules. They got to, they got procedural things they got to get through. Oh, she said that she used a Heritage Action Scorecard. Okay, awesome. But yeah, they got some things that they got to go through and vote on before it is, getting to the business of governing. Okay, so they do have some things they got to do. It may take a week to get through these things. It might just, please be patient a little bit. I know that, when things are looking like this, it's easy to get excited and, impatient, but, we got some, it's going to be a little bit of time before they actually get to the work of governing, before they actually get to it. It's going to take a little bit. But I hope that it works out. I really do. So I thank you very much. Y'all have yourself a great one. And until next week, take care. This has been The Ho Ho Show. For more information, you can head to thehohoshow.com. And for the merchandise store, you can head on over to stinkpickle.com. That is stinkpikle.com. Until next time.